In next 2 minutes, we're gonna start. Melissa, just let's be a little bit patient, okay? Yeah. So, welcome everybody. I hope my voice is clear and you hear my voice, right?
You're good.
Yeah, great. So it's 9 p.m. by Baku time, and I hope in next minutes people will join. But I would like to start with my presentation, and later Melissa de Korte will go on. So with your permission, I'm just sharing my screen. And I hope you see my say screen. Okay. Yes. Welcome to Baku Power BI, Excel, and Innovative Educators Meetup Group's 12th session in 2022. I'm going with my agenda. After introduction, I will give a little bit information about our sponsor, so-called Enterprise DNA. And I will talk about the winners, membership. Also, as for today's topic, today's session topic is Power Query in the Trench, 3 solutions to a data problem. That's the name of, that's our topic. And then we'll have a Q&A session. So Baku Power BI, Excel, and Innovative Educators Meetup Group has roughly 1,200 members, and this group is organized by me, myself, Pragati Jain, and Mehriban Zia. And Baku Power BI Meetup Group is sponsored by Enterprise DNA. Enterprise DNA is a great educational platform that gives 3 free annual Enterprise DNA membership each month for the members of Baku Power BI Meetup Group. And if you want to get to become data analysts, to learn more about Microsoft Power Platform products, including Power Query, Power BI, Power Pivot, and also our language, say Python. So this is the great place where you can start. And as for actually, on 3rd August, I delivered this speech about retail sales case with Power BI. So in next minutes, I'm just going to share the link. I kindly ask you to watch this video, of course, if you have desire and time, and then like, share, or share this link that I delivered speech. And as for today's speaker, we have Melissa de Korte from Holland, Netherlands, I'm sorry, and who is going to talk about Power Query in the trends. She will be talking about the solutions to a data problem. And our next speaker is also coming from Enterprise DNA, Brian Julius, who is going to talk about effectively employing DAX patterns. And it's going to happen on August 26th. Our session is recorded and live streaming on Facebook. And you can follow or you can watch our videos on Excel World's Facebook page. And also, Baku Power BI Meetup Groups has its YouTube channel, so-called in Excel World. So here you will have an opportunity to watch the previous sessions. Also, I would like, taking it an opportunity, I would like to give a little bit of information about my data summit, which is going to happen in September from 5th to 7th. This summit has been organized by myself and Faraz Sheikh, and roughly 35 speakers will be delivering speech on Microsoft Office products and Power Platform products. So here you may see the great lineup of our speakers. So I kindly invite you to join to this summit. So I hope and strongly believe that I'm just going to see you on August 26th with Brian, when Brian Julius is going to deliver his speech. Enjoy the session, and I would like to stop sharing my screen, and the stage is yours, Melissa.
Thank you so much, Ilgar. So I'll start sharing my screen. Let's see if that works. Let's see. Let's see. Let me know if you can see my screen. I hope you do. Anyway, this is the topic of today. So let me briefly introduce myself before we get started. My name is Melissa. I work for a company called Adamas in the Netherlands. I've been with them for over 15 years already. And in my current role, I get to work on projects that focus on digitization, optimization, and automation, and of course, some data analysis as well. I also provide a bit of in-house training. That's just a fun thing to do. And at the end of 2019, I became an enterprise DNA expert. That title can be awarded to members for their contributions to the community, in my case, by providing support on their forum. That's something that I really enjoy doing in my spare time, and it's also been instrumental in getting exposure to a wider range of business scenarios, as well as help discover more about these tools and solidify skills, which has led me to some surprising opportunities as well, right? So I got the chance to create 2 courses on Power Query for Enterprise DNA, which can both be accessed through their learning platform. The first covers fundamentals in Power Query, and the second is very dear to me because that focuses on practical application and problem solving, which we'll be doing in a short while. I think that sums up about most of my passions: learning, sharing, and solving practical problems with Power Query. Now on to our topic of today. So this is our scenario. We'll be transforming pivoted data, as you can see right here, into that tabular format that you see right below it. So that's going to be our task. This sample was provided by Access Analytic. If you're not familiar with them, please go check them out. You'll find a link here at the bottom of the page. Win Hopkins runs a couple of Power Query challenges on their side, which is absolutely amazing. Personally, I really love getting involved in challenges for 2 main reasons. First, of course, it's a good way to get some dedicated practice in But second, it's also very insightful to dissect submissions from others. You can learn a lot about MCode that way. So let's head over to Power Query. And I'll zoom in. Perfect. Now, when working in Power Query, it's a best practice to always have the formula bar and the query settings pane visible on your screen. So if that's not the case, so this is the formula bar and this is the query settings pane. If they're not visible, please go to the View tab and you can toggle them on right here. So this is the data that we're looking at, and you'll see that the description, you could kind of identify them as row headers. And beside them are data, weekly data that's associated with that. I'll right-click my sample query because I'm going to create a reference to that. Reference means that I'm returning the output of the query that I've selected instead of duplicating the full M code that made up that query. Let's rename this. So my first solution will be centered mostly about doing stuff in the user interface. So each of these columns, right, describe the same thing. They all have something to do with a week ending value or something. So to me, that shouts out that I have to transpose this data because that data here is all describing the same thing. So with the description selected, I'm going to go to the Transform tab. Let's see, there we go. And I'll transpose this data. Now I can promote that first row as headers. So use first row as headers. Perfect. All of our values are in the rows, but they're spread across many columns, right? That's typically not what you want. So we want to unpivot this. So you always have a column selected, right? So with the column selected, I'll choose unpivot columns right here and unpivot other columns. This means that I've unpivoted all my columns except the column that I had selected, but I need to unpivot all my columns. So to achieve that, all I have to do is delete this column reference that's inside those curly brackets. That's a list. This is a column reference. And if I delete that, then I have an empty list. And I can update that by pressing that check mark. Perfect. So now I've unpivoted all my columns. The next thing that I want to do, because all my values are stacked underneath each other, right? And we need a unified label. So here we have something to do with dates or with periods at least. So we have July 2015, August, and so on. And then we have a number of paid employees with an incremental suffix at the end, right? We need a unified label. So we want two distinct values to describe each of the values in the value column. To do that, I can use a conditional column. So on the Add Column tab, I'll select Conditional Column. This window pops up and it suggests that you can give that a proper column name. Now, I'm not really too bothered with that, so I'm just going to leave that as it is. Next, I can select the column or the value that I want to look at. I want to look at the attribute. And you can design many ways to distinguish these values, right? But it's very important to consider the data that you have and the data that you might get in future. So this title will pretty much stay consistent. So I'm going to use this to split out these values. So I'm looking for text that contains employee. And if that is the case, then we have a number of employees. And if that's not the case, well, then we're somewhere else. So then we're probably looking at a date. Let's do that. Perfect. Now, our data is actually a value pair. So 2 rows belong to the same item, if you will. So we need to design a way to keep these rows together. Now for that, typically an index is used. So on the Add Column tab, I'll choose Index. Now the thing with an index is that it generates a unique value for each row in my table. And I want to keep a set of rows together. So to do that, I have to update that index value. So on the Transform tab, I'll select Standard, Integer Divide, and divide that by 2. Press OK. Perfect. So I no longer need the attribute column, so I can delete that. Just remove that. I can select my custom column because I want that to become the headers, and I can now pivot my data. So I'll select pivot column, and it already suggests that the things that I want as values might be in the value column. Now that's absolutely correct, so that's good. But under advanced, you have to select do not aggregate. A couple of reasons for that. First, we have a mix of values that do not belong together, so you should never aggregate those. Of course, there are these values can't even be aggregated because they are actually text strings at this time. So don't aggregate. That's the thing that that we need. Press OK. Perfect. Now I don't need the index any longer, so I can right-click that header and remove that from the table. And all that's left to do is some final cleanup. So I can remove the blanks here, set appropriate data types. So this is a datetime value. So datetime. This is a whole number. Select that. And finally, we can extract the date from this column as well. So in the transform column, date only. Perfect. So this is solution number 1. Now, Ilgar, we didn't actually talk about questions and how to handle them. Are there any questions that need to know?
Not yet. Actually, we'll have a Q&A session, but of course, if somebody asks a question, I will direct this question to you. So you make it on.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. So this is solution number 1. Let's try a different approach. Again, I'm going to start by referencing my sample data. So right-click that sample query, select reference.
I'm sorry, Melissa. I think I have to interrupt you. John Keegan asks, did you have to change date type into steps?
Yes, you do. And let me demonstrate that. So I'll just duplicate this query in this instance. And I've changed it to a date time. Let's just change it into a date. Replace current. And that will result in errors. So we can select date time again. Press that check mark. There's another way to achieve exactly the same thing instead of selecting date only and extracting that, is now choosing for date and do not replace the current step, but add it as a new step. So it will add another change type step here, but you'll only be left with the date. But yes, you have to do it in in 2 steps, extracting that date from a datetime text string, if you will. Hope that answered the question.
Actually, yes, thank you for your answer. I hope John will confirm it in next minutes.
Awesome. So let's just keep going and look at our second attempt to transform this data. So I'm calling this a hybrid solution, and I'm sure that in a moment you'll understand why I've chosen to call this a hybrid solution. So I've added a reference, I've renamed my query, and this time around I'll start by adding that index from 0. So on the Add Column tab, I'll select Add Index Column. Again, this creates a unique value for each row in my table. 2 rows to a set of rows belongs together, so I need to update that reference. So on the Transform tab, I'll select Standard Integer Divide and divide that by 2. Press OK. And now there is a grouping for a set of rows, right? So each set of rows has a unique value. And we have that. We can group by this index to get all of the rows that are associated with that. So group by is an amazing function. You can do great stuff with it. You'll find it all the way at the beginning on the Transform tab, but you will also find group by on the Home tab or on the Home tab in the Transform section. But you can also right-click that column and choose group by here. So the operation that I want to do is retrieve all of the rows that share that index number. So I'll select all rows, and I'll also rename that all rows. Press OK. So we now get a nested table for each index value. And when I click off to the side in the white space, I can see a preview of that table down below. Now, this is only a preview, so if you have a lot of data, you will only see a subset. That's something you have to keep in mind. So now we want to transform this table as well, right? So I could click on that nested object that will drill down in that specific value, but then of course I will lose all my other data. So that's not what I want. I'll remove that step by pressing the X in front. And I'll right-click in the white space beside that nested value. This time I'll choose Edit as New Query. So here in the query pane, you'll see that it added a new query. It's called null or 0, or however you want to pronounce that. And this is the table that we've extracted. Now, because we've extracted one sample of our data, we can use the user interface again to transform it without actually having to write any M code. So let's do that. I'll remove the description because I don't need it. Remove that. Of course, I don't need the index column anymore either, so I'll remove that as well. Perfect. Now the data is in one line, and I want to flip this on its side, giving me one column with dates and one column with values. So on the Transform tab, I'll select Transpose. Perfect. And I can also remove that empty row right here, right? So select that, uncheck blank, press OK. Perfect. So I've created some syntax, some logic, and I want to apply the logic that I've created in this query across all of those nested tables that we saw earlier. So I need to copy the code that I generated. I'll open the advanced editor window. Let me zoom in a bit here as well. And the first thing we did was remove columns. So that's here on line 7. Let's select everything right until the end. So every step, every transformation that we performed, I'm going to copy all that syntax, all that code. Control C, done. I'm going to step back to the query that we were working on, and I'm going to create a space to perform these transformations. So I'll add a custom column. And let's just point to the all rows. So I'm just bringing in the value that's currently in the all rows. Press OK. I find it really difficult to code much in that tiny window, so I usually prefer the advanced editor window. So I'll open that, move that a bit, and zoom in again. Perfect. So inside the advanced editor window, we see a let expression. So it starts with a let that you see on line 1. Then all the way at the end here in line 7, it has an in clause, and whatever is referenced in the in clause, that's the thing that this query outputs or generates or returns. So this allows us to do multiple transformations on an item, on a table. And that's exactly what we want. So we are going to create a nested let expression inside our add column here, right? So added custom, that's the thing that we're going to transform. Going to create a bit of space, just move that down. Now, of course, I have to start with that let expression. I did not copy that, so I have to write that. I'm going to paste in the code that I copied, so Control V to paste that. And I'm just going to indent that a bit using the tab. Perfect. So we have a let, we have an in clause, and in between there's a comma delimited list of variables and values assigned to them. Now, the initial table reference here, that refers to a table in the query that we used in our development of the code, right? We need to point to the table that's here inside the all rows column. And we already brought that syntax in, that's this. So I'm going to X that out, just remove that. And instead of that initial table reference here, I'm just going to paste that in and press done. So in the all rows, there's our original data. So here we have that line of code. And with a bit of luck, we should have a transform table beside it. So I'm going to click off to the side in the white space here as well, so we can see the contents of that. And that's looking really, really well. So at this time, I no longer need any of the other columns in this query. I can just right-click my custom column header and remove other columns. Select that. Perfect. Now I can use that expand column option here at the top. Just click on that to expand the fields that are inside that table. So I don't want to prefix them, just want to extract those values. Perfect. The thing to note is that this list here, those are the values that you're bringing in from, that you're selecting from that nested table. And that second list with column names are the column names that you're assigning in the table that you're looking at the screen, right? So we can rename them as well. So column 1, that should be called date. And column 2, let's call that number of employees. Perfect. Press that check mark. Great. So some final cleanup. We already filtered out the blank rows, so just typing some data. Let's select a date and time. And this is a whole number. And extract the date again. So on the transform tab, date only. Perfect. Solution number 2. So this is a hybrid solution in the sense that we still used to a maximum the user interface, but created a pretty sophisticated query already by nesting some logic. Are there any questions on this, Ilgar? Either you're still muted or there aren't any questions. Let me know, please.
No, I'm sorry. There is no question yet. Sorry.
Let's hope everyone got that then. All right. So one final solution to go, and this is the part where we start writing some M code. So I hope everyone's ready for that. I'll reference my sample query again. Just right-click that, select reference, and we'll call this custom. Oh, all right. So right. So this time around, we'll do something totally different. I'm going to extract all the values from the rows. To do that, I have to add a column to this table. So with that mini table icon, I'll select add a custom column. And to access the current row of the table, I can use the underscore. So I'll enter an not there, but I'll add that here. Enter the underscore here and press OK. And this returns a record. So when I click off to the side in the white space, we can see a preview down below, and it shows the record field names and beside it the values. Now I don't need the entire record. I don't want the description. I don't need it. So I'm going to omit that from this record. So inside the formula bar, I'm going to add some code to transform the contents of this record. I'm going to use a function called record remove fields. And to enter that, I'm going to use the initial letters of each of those words. So record remove fields. And now inside this list, I can look for the appropriate function and select it with the tab. So the underscore is still our record. That's the thing that we're still seeing on the screen. And as second argument, we can enter fields that we want to omit. We only want to omit one field, and that's the description column. So as a text, I'm going to enter description. Hopefully I didn't make any typos. We'll see in a minute. Don't forget the closing parentheses and press that check mark. Awesome. So clicking off to the side again, and we no longer have that field description with the associated value. Perfect. Now, I'm not that interested in keeping the record. All I'm interested in are the values of that record. So I want to lose the field names here and just keep a list with these values beside it. So there's an M function for that as well. It's called a record to list. So again, record to list. And there it is. It popped up immediately. Press tab to select that. Just wrap it around it. And press that check mark. So instead of a record, we now have a list of values. And when I click off to the side in the white space here, you see that we just have the field values. Perfect. Now I've collected everything that I need to build my solution, and I don't need any of the other columns. In fact, I don't need a table either. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill down into this custom column. So right-click that, drill down, and that returns a list. Perfect. So let's open the advanced editor window. And I'll zoom in as well. So this custom, that's this list with nested lists. That's the thing that we are interested in, or at least that I'm interested in. And of course, it still has that format that was in the table. So we have a list with dates, a list with values, dates, values, and so on across the entire list. So we want to extract types that belong together. So I want to extract all of the lists from these nested lists that contain dates. So to do that, of course, I'm going to create some logic. So I have to add another variable here. I'm going to place a comma at the end of the last line inside this query, press enter, and create another variable name. I'll call this toTable. And let's first find a way to extract those lists with just dates. I'm going to use an M function called list.alternate. There it is. So it wants a list as a list. Now we still have that list right here on our screen, right? So I'm just going to copy that variable name and bring that inside my function. Just press that. So first we have a list, then we have a count, and that's the number of values that you want to skip each time. Now I want to skip just one value. So I'm going to enter a 1 here, comma. Next, a repeat interval, and that's the number of values you want to keep in between the skipped items. That's a 1 as well. Enter a 1. And finally, an offset. So where in the list, so the list that we're still seeing here on the screen, where in the list do we want to begin? Well, I want to begin all the way at the top. So at the first position. I'm going to copy this and paste it after the in clause because, of course, we have to see if this worked, right? So press done. Well, we still have a list with lists, so we're not really sure yet if that worked. Let's find out. So I'm clicking off to the side in the white space here. And yeah, we're starting with a list with dates. So that's good. Let's try the second one as well. And that's a list with dates as well. Awesome. So we found a method to extract all of the lists that contain dates. And we have to do the same to create a list only containing lists with that number of employee value. So to do that, all we have to do when you think about it is skip 1 to begin with, because we started with a list with dates. So I'm going to omit that last parameter to this function and confirm that. And hopefully we get number of employees now. Let's see. So I'm clicking off to the side in the first one. Perfect. Awesome. So we have a method to extract the dates. We have a method to extract all of the values, but they are still in nested lists. And of course, we want the values inside of those lists. So we want to expand all of them. Let's do that. So we'll add list.combine to extract all of those values from those nested lists. List combine, there it is. Press tab. And it wants lists as a list. So it wants a single list with multiple lists. And if you look at the screen, that's exactly the format that we have. We have one single list with multiple listed lists. So all I have to do is add a closing parentheses and press that check mark. Perfect. Let's go back to the advanced editor window. So I'll open that. And I'll zoom in. Perfect. So now we have to find a way to stitch both of these lists together to form a new table. So let's do that. I'm going to copy the syntax. Let's cut it for now. And we'll start by adding a new function, table from columns. So table from columns, opening parentheses, just press enter, and it wants lists as a list. So again, one single list containing multiple lists. So you can create lists using those list initializers. That's a set of those curly brackets. So I'm going to enter that, press enter. And now I can put my lists back in here, right? So paste in the code that we created, that we copied. I'll put a comment at the end right away. Now I want to start with a list with dates, and to get the dates, we have to add that starting position back again, right? So comma 1. Let's press enter, paste in the code for our second list, and that's the list that we're still seeing here on the screen. So that's the list with number of employees. Perfect. Now this function also allows you to assign column names to these lists, if you will. So comma, enter, as a list, because we have multiple columns. We'll say the first column is called date. And the second column is number of employees. Right. Let's press done. Awesome. So again, some final cleanup to end with. We'll omit the blanks and set appropriate data types. So again, daytime, whole number, and just extract the dates. So transform date, date only. Perfect. So you've seen 3 totally different approaches to just one single problem. Let me know which one you like best. So number 3 is coming up as a winner, right? Amazing. So the question is, why do you like number 3 so much? Because we had to dive into some actual M code, or is there any other reason why you picked that one? M code.
While people are just thinking about the answer, Bill is asking the following questions. Would either of the 3 be more efficient with a large data set? Is the question from Bill? Yeah.
And the answer is yes. And we'll take a look at that in just a minute, Bill. So just stay tuned.
Yeah. And as answer, Faraz says M code. Alejandra says yes, because the M code. And yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm just going to deselect enable load, because to be honest, we don't need all of that data. Right. And I'll close and apply. Perfect. So this one's for Bill. I did do a speed test on performance on these queries using Monkey Tools. That's a tool, that's an Excel add-in that Ken Paul's designed. So these are the results, and you'll see that I've bloated up the sample. I've increased the sample size by 1,000 and then did 5 measurements, so 5 trials. And you'll see that the code generated by the UI, it's not that bad. It runs pretty decent. If you have to wait 8-9 seconds for a query to execute, I think you're a lucky guy. But if you do a bit of M code, so you'll see that hybrid solution that we did, we still used a lot of user interface, but it already cuts the execution time almost in half. So almost twice as fast. And finally, you can still get another 15 additional % quicker by that final solution that we did. So all in all, the final solution is the fastest, but creating a custom solution does not automatically mean that your code will execute better than code generated by the UI. So you always have to test performance.
Sorry, Sunny has commented or question, says that my question would be out of proportion. I want to know how to convert the SQL query, what we add in the query, what we add in the Power Query, and turn back the Power Query to SQL query.
Yeah, right. So it is a bit out of scope indeed. But I know that when you go back, let's go back to the query editor. So when you have a query, then usually if you right click that, there should be a view native query, and that's the SQL statement that's sent back to the SQL database. That's the thing that you can modify. I don't think it's advised to do that, but you could. It's always, I think, better to, if you're able to work with SQL, to create views and query against those. So build a view and query the view that you've designed for that specific need.
And Sunny asks that I don't get native queries in any of my Excels. Is there any other solution?
So are you able to design views in SQL, Sunny? Yes. Well, then you should do that. So build a view and connect to that to extract the data. Is the M code equal to the advanced editor window? No, that's just the place that the code is stored. So let's take a look at that as well. So if I go back, you'll see that there are bits and pieces of M code across your screen, right? So if I select that last query, for example, I can see a bit of M code right here inside the formula bar. So that's also a good way to pick up on some M code, and that's why it's very important to always have that visible on your screen. You can peek inside the code that your steps or your actions have generated. The variable names are not visible inside the formula bar, but they're here in the applied steps. So this is the place where you see the variable name that's assigned to that. If you want to see the full code, then you'll go to the advanced editor. So this is just this is the place where all your query, your total query, the M code is actually stored. I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you. And some other questions. I think I have not lost the order. Nawaf Altahir asks, is the M code equals advanced editor?
No, it is not. I believe I tried to address that just a few seconds ago. So let me know if that was helpful.
Maybe I'm late in asking this question. Sorry for that. Yeah. Do you want to explain, or can I go with the next question?
You can go for the next one.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Melissa, she is asking, Melissa, do you recommend to turn the privacy off? What are the benefits?
That's a risky one. You should probably dive into some content that was created by Chris Webb. His blog is CrossJoin. I hope I remember that correctly. He has done some, he's created some content on the subject of privacy settings and the implications. So you should be aware of what that does and what that means for your data.
I'm just going to place Chris Webb's blog link, but there is a long question from Bill, who says that given the speed test results, I lean a little the hybrid. Wouldn't be it? Yeah. Will you go on read the question because it's a little bit long?
Let me read the question again. So given speed, yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And that's also, that's something that you always have to consider, right? You'll probably design queries that at some point will be maintained or will be passed on to another user. And depending on their skill level, it will be either very difficult to make sense of your query or very easy. So using the user interface is always helpful because that's a code that people can recreate using the user interface. Documenting your steps is very advisable. So if you right-click any of the variable names here, you can go to properties and you can enter a comment here that will create a comment in your code. So let's do that. And when you look inside the advanced editor window, you'll see that that comment was added. So it added to slashes. You can also create multi-line comments in your code. I believe that was something like this. Let's see if that works. No, it doesn't. That must be the heat. My brain is fried. But yeah, you can create comments in your code, and it's always advisable to do that. So excellent point.
Yeah. So Sunny has kind words. Says that you are wonderful and you have a RJ voice. I fully agree with her because I also think so. Yeah, RJ. Yeah, and I think Korte is your surname. I hope your name is Melissa, right?
Yeah. My name is Melissa. Everyone, please call me Melissa. That's absolutely fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And thanks to Faraz for placing Chris Webb's blog links. I also placed. That's great. So also she thanks.
Right, Bill. Yeah. Sorry, Bill. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, my brain is fried, but yours seems to be working perfectly. Yeah, that's the way to do it. A multi-line comment.
RG radio jockey, radio speakers.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, Nawaf ask us, PQ and Power Query is a great tool and a bridge to displaying reports. What are the reports that it can be? Power Pivot and other?
Yeah, your Power Query is something that you use either in Excel, and then it will be a source table for a Power Pivot model. It can also be just a table inside Excel, right? It doesn't really matter. You can also use Power Query inside data flows, for example, and then it can be a table that you connect to create a Power Query, to design a model for Power BI, for example. And of course, like we did today inside Power BI, you also have Power Query to design those tables. So those are three places where you can use Power Query, at least where I use them most often, inside data flows, inside Excel, and inside Power BI Desktop.
Yeah, Sunny, this was what I was asking. So will be second as to read it. It's also a little bit long. Melissa, something from Sunny.
A question from Sunny. Let's see. If I want to render the Power Query and it's easy to edit in SQL. Right. Yeah, I'm sorry, I have nothing to offer here, Sunny.
Okay, and a great person, really, whom I appreciate more. Mr. Brian Julius is also. Thanks you.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks for joining.
That's great. Yeah. To hear from him also. Ricardo Serrano. Thanks. Otello One Calvet. Also thanks. So yeah. So I think it's time to cover up, if you don't mind. But before covering up, she was asking, Melissa, I'm watching your videos on Edna. Anyway, as you have posted videos.
No, to date, I've only created content for Enterprise DNA. So there's content on their YouTube channel, but like I said in the beginning, I've also created courses for them. You'll find those in the learning platform, and some webinars that are there as well. So yeah, that's the content this far. Although I'm trying to post something on LinkedIn now and again, but not structural. So you can reach out if you like.
Yeah. And Nawaf is also asking that is a Power Pivot a dead tool? I barely find any help forms. Sorry for the question outside topic.
Let's see. Is Power Pivot a dead tool? It most certainly is not. I think it depends. It depends on your business and how you use it. So I still think there's a niche for Power Pivot, definitely.
Yeah. So Otello loves your enthusiasm, which make people expert, loves to follow. That's great.
Thank you, Otello.
Yeah. And Bill saying that thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Ilgar, for excellent speakers topics. Is there a practice file available? Just curious.
Is the practice file available? Yeah, let's. The file that I'm working on, of course, isn't, but this video will be posted on the channel provided by Ilgar, right? So if you go to, let's commit to this again. If you follow this hyperlink, that will bring you to the Access Analytics site. This was actually a challenge that was provided by them, so you can just grab the data there and follow along with the video once it's published.
Yeah, and also Al Sayed, I hope I pronounce his surname correctly, asking about recording and practice data. Recording will be available on Meetup platform page, and also it will be available on YouTube channel. As for practice data, I hope Melissa will provide me with this data, right? And by place. Okay, yeah. I will share. I will share. Yeah, great.
I will send it to you. Yeah.
Okay, great.
We'll get this done, Bill.
Yeah. And Brian Julius said that Win Hopkins said that he will have a new Power Query challenge dropping any day now. Great.
Seems like we all have an appointment with Win in the coming few days. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. Great. So, Melissa, I will kindly ask you to stay a little bit after this webinar because Mark wants to talk to you. That's one case, and I'm also going to place my PowerPoint file after this webinar on meetup.com page, and also it will be available under the video on YouTube. But if you don't mind, I would like to kindly ask Faraz Sheikh for 2 minutes. He will be giving a little bit of information about My Data Summit, and then we can cover up. So Faraz, if you don't mind, you may share your screen and just.
Yep.
You may go on.
Let me just thank everyone for watching and for spending some time here with me today. So thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate that. So thank you everyone.
Yeah, but you are here, right?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, okay, please. I'm just taking. Will take for your 2 or 3 minutes, nothing more. Okay.
No problem.
So Faraz, you may go on, please.
Helga, can you see my screen?
Yes, I see your screen. Yeah.
Perfect.
And, perfect. By the way, sorry interrupting you. By the way, I hope Melissa, in near future will be one of your speakers, right?
Yeah, we definitely we wanted to add a lot of people, but unfortunately we just have 3 days, But maybe we plan for an event for a week, then definitely, we are going to add all these great people over there.
Yeah, great. Yeah, go please.
So this is my data summit. It's going to happen on 5th, 6th, 7th September. It's going to be massive mega event. And we have around like 33 speakers. I'll just quickly brief you that what is the reason you must attend? There are 5 reasons that we have some great experts over there. And as you have seen today, like how Melissa, she has given some awesome tips on Power Query, like the third solution, which was that was really interesting. I liked it. Something you'll explore over there in that events, so there are some great sessions which are over there. So this is our speaker lineup, and we have our support sponsor, Microsoft and Excel Exciting and Endless Fair, financial modeling, and even Enterprise Genie is also helping us out in the back end, and we are really happy to have them also over here. So that's myself and Ilgar, and let me quickly show you the agenda. So this is really interesting. You guys will love this one. So we have a networking area. We are going to talk about the futuristic technology, Power Query, Power Apps, how you can automate it. It will be low code, no code solution. We'll be doing it. So we have some financial modelings as well. We're going to talk about financial modeling and Power Query with HR, and some great tips by Gasper, Alan Murray. So you can feel free to go and check this list out. And we have Oz Rusile also. We are not only going to talk about Excel, how things are going good on that, but some things can burn out your hands. So how you can take care also, we're going to talk about that. Oz is going to talk about that. Python. So this is going to be massive mega event. And we even have some master classes where some of the great speakers are going to talk about the masterclass on a specific topic. So feel free to go and check this agenda page, and you can just simply come here, you can buy the tickets. Right now, it's for $89, and we have masterclasses. And Elgar is going to drop a special discount code in chat, and you can get it for a very discounted price. So that's all, and we'll be looking forward for everyone to come and join the event, and let's have a blast over there. That's all from my side, Ilgar.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think, if once again, if there is a question, please be so kind as to ask your questions. So I have also placed the link where you can watch the replay replay video of this session. And in my turn also, I would like to thank to everybody for their time that they joined, they spent with us. I hope it was very useful session. I believe it. So as I mentioned in the beginning of my this session, that our next speaker is a great person who is the chief content creator at Enterprise DNA, Mr. Brian Julius. So I would like to welcome you in my next session also. So that's it from my side. Melissa, thank you once again for your wonderful session. It was really very useful. I'm just trying to find the code. Faraz, if you don't mind, please be so kind as to place here the code. Or not, I will be sending via email. That's it from my side. So once again, thank you for joining to this today's session. So if there is no question, and if you don't